Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my regular broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for those New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And, of course, what we talk about now, this time of year, is the playoffs. And what we're talking about mostly is the Stanley Cup Final. But before we get there, let's talk about some of the happenings around the league. One of them is very big to New York Rangers fans, is Adam Fox, a young defenseman. And I think that's relevant because normally you got to put some time in to win the Norris Trophy. But he did. He won the Norris Trophy, and reaction around the league was, I'm going to say there was some people expressed surprise. I think mostly because they felt that, there's kind of a tradition that you got to sort of, contend for the Norris before you actually win it. Now, there's nothing in the rules that says that. So, we didn't do that. But Damian Cox, who was a longtime scribe, who had criticized, his colleagues, the writers, for its Selke Trophy choice when they took Barkov over Patrice Bergeron. And said it's time to take it away from the writers and put together a blue ribbon panel to do it. It said it again. Said, there's something wrong. Now, I'm assuming that his reaction is about that Cale Makar did not win it. Now, I'm just guessing because he didn't say. But your thoughts on Adam Fox winning it?
Well, first of all, Victor Hedman to me is a guy that you can give it to every year. And maybe that's part of the issue. Same thing with Bergeron as far as winning the Selke, the best defensive forward. But listen, Fox played fantastic. Way better. Like, I think everybody here in the organization knew he was going to be a good player. But the level that he played to this year on a team that really was struggling sometimes, like his composure with the puck, it's just like the statement that goes to a player that's been around a little bit longer. He played like he'd been around a little bit longer. Like, again, it wasn't just the skill level; it was the poise. So there's some game that he did everything: kill penalties, power play, regular strength. He really could do everything. So I don't think it's wrong to pick him. And again, like you said, there's no rule that says you have to be around for a while to contend for that trophy or any trophy to win it. And I do think sometimes the guys like Damian Cox. And this is me saying this, not you, he wants to stir the pot sometimes too, right? To go contrary to everybody else. I just think, listen, those awards, I mean, to me, the talent level in the National Hockey League right now is incredible. Like I said, I mean, there's some of these incumbent guys like the Bergerons and Hedmans of the world, they can always give them that trophy. They play that way all the time. So I don't have a problem with the selection of who got selected to those awards. I mean, you can also argue that if it went to Hedman and Bergeron, those two awards, they were right there too. So, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it. If I had a vote, and I didn't this year for the first time in 35 years,
That's right.
They limited the number of votes this year because of the way the season played out. But to me, it would have come down to Fox and Makar, just because. There's nothing, and again, you're splitting hairs when you're getting down to this. Like, I mean, these are all great players.
So you would not have had Hedman in that category?
No, not in terms of this season, because this is how I always see it. And I just had this conversation with the GM, who we were talking about. I asked him whether he thought Adam Fox was deserving of the Norris, and he said, "Let me ask you this: would you trade Fox for Makar?" And I said, "Well." Actually, I probably would. I would take Makar. I just think that Makar has that kind of thing. I said, but that's not what the award's about. Yeah. The award is not about, who you would take or prefer, because I would take Hedman over either of those two. Right. And he goes, yeah, I would too. But he said, I also agree with you. He said, I would trade. If I had Fox and I could have Makar, I'd take Makar. That doesn't mean that. But he said, yeah, but you're right. Adam Fox may have had the best season. So anyway, I thought, Hedman had some injuries this year, and he wasn't quite as good as he has been previously. Now, does that mean, who would you rather have this season? Some guys would probably say Hedman. So, but
and listen, obviously my affiliation with the Rangers, so I like Fox, but I like Fox anyways, whether I'm affiliated with the team or not. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't think if you'd gone with Makar, Hedman, or
Yeah.
Fox, either one of those guys. I don't know how you could argue. They're all, they're good.
No, I mean, what happens is fans get all stirred up.
Yeah.
About it. They can't separate it.
Yeah.
That these guys, that all three players are great.
Yeah.
And that there's, it's not a bad choice. Like,
and then like the Bergeron for the Selke is best defense. I mean, you could, if you give it to him every year, you wouldn't be wrong. I mean, just because it goes to somebody else.
And there was some thought too. I can't remember now, just because it's not on. Couldn't he have tied Bob Gainey's record? I think that was possible. So I think people wanted that to enter into the thinking. Yeah. And to be honest with you, when I was president of the writers, I used to tell writers like none of that should enter into it. Like I hated what I hated most was the guys that made up their own rules for the award. I hated it when guys would say, to me, I'm not going to give it to a 24-year-old because when there are 18-year-olds competing. Well, that's not what the rule says.
Yeah,
the rule says if you're eligible to win if you're, under the age of 25. It doesn't say, give preferential treatment to the younger player.
Very true.
Yeah. So don't be making up rules. If we don't like the rules, we should go to the league and change them. We shouldn't, or just keep them to yourself. Maybe that's going to enter your thinking. But good.
Do you think it's right? Do you think it's right that the writers make that selection?
I do, and I think they're in the best position to do it. And I think Gary Bettman knows that as well. In fact, I've had conversations with him. You're going to have major problems. Like if you look at the way the Vezina has turned out all these years when the GMs voted. So, and if you do a blue ribbon panel, you're going to run into the same problem we ran into as writers before we increased it. And that is when you got a small number and somebody makes a screwy vote, it throws everything off. And
do you think too? Like I've heard stories like you're in a room with a group of people or a conference call, whatever it is, and somebody has an opinion and they argue that opinion. Sometimes people just go with that opinion because they respect that person, right?
Well, I think that happens in Hall of Fame committees. I've been on Hall of Fame committees, and I do think if you're a powerful figure, you can sway the argument. I do think, but that it's always a secret ballot with these kind of awards.
Is that what it's okay?
Yeah, if it was a blue ribbon panel, you would still just enter your ballot, secret ballot. So, but if they decided to have some kind of debate beforehand, that could influence it.
Right, totally. Like imagine if Wayne Gretzky's on a panel. And it's a wide open panel. Everybody's arguing their position. Wayne Gretzky argues a certain way. I mean, it's kind of hard to not go with Wayne Gretzky, right? I mean, people aren't going to go against him.
I mean, that's a fair comment. I mean, I've been on committees, and like you prepare, you do your due diligence, and then like people have talked about. I've never done it, but when you have to defend your thesis. When you get a doctorate degree, they say that's just like the scariest time. Well, when I'm on Hall of Fame committees and I'm supportive of a player, I prepare as if I'm making a legal case. I have my notes and everything, and then I stand up and say my piece. And I like to believe that I'm persuasive. Maybe I'm not. But you like.
I mean, obviously, you've intimidated me with my cooking, right? I mean, I rely on your opinion for my cooking.
Yeah, and it was totally by accident. So that's probably my best work is when I'm not intending
to do it on purpose.
But I think Adam Fox is a fine choice. I think the awards have gone fine this year. Barkov is a terrific two-way player. Like there's no denying that he's just a beast.
Right. And how about our boy Fleury winning the Vezina in Vegas there?
Yeah. So, like he has every right to be walking around with a screw you attitude.
Oh yeah, totally. He could be my favorite athlete of all time now. I mean, it's just the way he handled that. I mean, the way he went in there to Vegas, he'd been a star in Pittsburgh, and they won their cups there. And all of a sudden, he's picked up an expansion team. He leads them to the Stanley Cup Finals. They bring another goaltender in, try to trade Fleury, doesn't work out. Now he comes back and he wins the Vezina. I mean, that's a great story. That's
and his, he's got the engaging personality, and everybody likes him and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
I wanted to bring up too. I just wrote about it for Detroit Hockey now, but if you're a fan right now of the Detroit Red Wings, they're one of the worst teams in the league. There's no question. Yeah. But they're real happy, they being the Detroit fans, with Steve Yzerman, and it's now being referred to as the Yzer plan.
The Yzer plan. Oh, okay, I like it.
The Yzer plan, and everybody's happy with it. But there's no better time than now. Like the Red Wings, in terms of the salary cap, are the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
Because even after they sign all the restricted free agents, they could have $27 million in cap space. So everybody who's available, everybody who's trying to dump a contract,
right,
has got to go talk to the Red Wings.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there, and like I'm reading all the stories about who may be available for. Like on Long Island, they've got to make some hard decisions. Are they going to protect Jordan Eberle and Nick Leddy and guys like that? Well,
right.
And I wrote today about this. If you're the Red Wings, you'll get to look at all those guys before they make the list, and because you'd rather trade them and get a draft pick than nothing for them.
Right.
So
so how's it going to work? Lou Lamoriello is going to call up Steve Yzerman. He's going to say, "I need to trade Nick Leddy."
Well, no, he's not going to say that. He's going to say, "Look, I'm going to put Nick Leddy on my. He's going to be available in the expansion draft. I'd obviously rather get something for him if you guys are interested. What will you get me? Because those are legitimate players. You're not taking somebody's contract in that situation.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but Steve Yzerman is going to say, "Okay, I'll help you out, but I'm not going to give you a whole lot." Right.
Well, yeah. He's not really helping. Help you out. He'll give you a draft pick, but it's not the same thing as Ken Holland calling him up and saying, I got to get rid of James Neal's contract, and then Yzerman saying, "Well, what do you give me?" This is a case of there'll be players available that could help the Red Wings now. They just have to decide whether it fits in the Yzer plan or not.
Right.
And maybe they'd give up a little bit, but they have the cap space to do it. Very few teams do. Like Arizona has cap space, but they're not going to spend it all.
Right. And so we've had this discussion before regarding Edmonton that, okay, you got to have room for the young kids to play, but you want to build that culture too, that winning culture. You don't want to constantly be losing, right? You don't want these young kids coming in and just getting used to losing all the time. Correct? Right. So that's going to be the question. Okay, are they ready now to add a Nick Leddy type player to the lineup that, okay, you're taking a spot away from a young kid, but now you're stabilizing it. You're helping stabilize your franchise, right, by getting him. So.
Well, let's just use the Red Wings as an example, but this is my read of what went on there. I think Yzerman let it bottom out 2 seasons ago, and it was ugly. We all remember just how it was hard to watch their games. They were giving up tons and tons of goals. And then I think Steve took a step back and he said, we're not going through that again. Because he could have fixed that, not fixed it in terms of he couldn't have made it a playoff team, but he could have made it more competitive. Right. He could have done what he did the second year, which is got some veteran defensemen. He brought in Merrill. He brought in Stahl. He brought in Stetcher. And that team was far more competitive because what was the link of all 3 of those guys? All very competitive players.
Leaders too.
Stahl fights like a son of a gun on every play.
Right.
And Merrill played hard for the Red Wings. And Stetcher, feisty player. Yeah. And I think he decided, just as you said, I don't want my young guys to go through that again. That was too hard on them. Like I needed to do that because I wanted to get, a top pick.
Right.
But now I want them to feel like they're in games. Well, I think that's what happened. And this was a better situation for them. Yeah, they dropped and they were 6th, but they were competitive in most games. So
how do the fans view Steve Yzerman now? I mean, he's still the Steve Yzerman that played all those years there, the legend, and he gets that little more leeway as a GM now because of who he was there in Detroit. Is that how they're looking at it?
Well, no. Steve Yzerman walks on water in Detroit.
Right.
There's Jesus Christ up here, and then right below him is Yzerman. I mean, they think the world of him.
Right. Everything he does, then okay. Steve says we're doing it, then that's a good plan.
Yeah. Like I mean, I'll give you a great example of that. The fans wanted Blashill gone.
Right.
They just see him, and I would say to them, when you're criticizing Blashill, you're criticizing Yzerman, because Blashill isn't doing anything that Yzerman isn't in the loop on. Because and Yzerman has said that publicly, that he's around a lot. I'm involved in the, he knows what's going on in practice. He knows what's happening with who's being played and everything else. He's made that clear. So if you don't like what Blashill's doing with the players, you're really saying you're not like him. But they don't see it that way.
That's a pretty smart move by Steve Yzerman, right? I mean, he makes him a better coach by doing that. Now the pressure's off the coach.
Right.
Now it's on him. Yeah.
Right. And he has said he did a good job. So people wanted him to fire Blashill. He didn't. And then right away you looked at the comment section and said, well, if Steve believes in him, then we should, we should move on. So, and I'm really fascinated by this, because I think mostly when there's a rebuild going on, it's a torturous situation. Like in Buffalo, everybody's mad. Like it's, and rightfully so. Like theirs has been going on for a decade. And, there are just more people, but in Detroit, there's fewer people mad.
Right.
Because
and speaking of Buffalo now, okay, we got to get on this subject. And the Granados, I played with Tony Granado. So his brother Don now just got, named as the head coach on a permanent basis. And they're a fantastic family. I heard nothing but great things. You think the world of Don Granado too, but it's just, they've got to rebuild that team. You're trying to trade Eichel. You're trying to trade Reinhart. And now your staff is all inexperienced guys who may be fantastic at their job. But man, it's just like, if you're the fan base there, or if you're a player, like, you're not going to get any free agents to go there unless you overpay them, right? That's a tough spot.
Well, it is, but I think this is the right move. And I know you disagree with me on this, but my thinking is that situation is so negative. Right. I mean, it's toxic there, and everything has gone wrong. And so you have a coach that I see as a very positive coach. Yeah. And the players responded to him well at the end of last season. They went after, I've seen the statistics somewhere that after they got rid of,
I know. I can't remember his name. I was just thinking of his name too.
It's terrible that I know. But anyway, after they made the coaching change, their scoring even went up. They were scoring, 0.4 of a goal more, or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly the figure. But things were just going better. The younger players who weren't playing well, Dahlin started playing better, and almost everything from what I read had to do with a negative attitude there went to a positive attitude.
So Don Granado is a good cheerleader. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, you could say that, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it's more of a, guys felt better about themselves. Right. Dahlin was a completely different player.
Right.
So
I guess I just look and I go, I mean, and like I said, it's totally unfair to these people too. So Kevin Adams, very little experience, trying to trade these top players. What's he going to get for him? Hires this coach, very little experience. Great guy. And I agree with you. Everything I've heard is all positive about him, but it's just like, oh man, like if you look at that team,
do you think it would have been better if they could have gotten like Scotty Bowman in his prime, or?
Well, I guess the guys out there, like we've talked about this before. I mean, you got guys like Jimmy Rutherford out there that could help out the organization, give it some credibility, guide him through this tough time. You get Rick Tocchet out there as a coach, Bruce Boudreau, all these guys. We had this conversation the other day when it comes to Hackstall getting signed in Seattle. Yeah. There's just so many other people out there. It's not that those guys are bad. It's not that Hackstall's a bad coach. It's not that Granado's a bad coach. It's just you got so many other people that are so much experience out there in two organizations that don't have a lot of experience. Obviously, Seattle hasn't played a game yet. In Buffalo, they wish they hadn't played a game yet the way they're playing. But
yeah, no, I mean, I think your point is well taken. But I do think GM position is different. You could certainly make an argument that Rick Tocchet at least had seen something like this, not exactly the same in Arizona.
Yep.
He had less assets to work with, and he turned it around. But You don't.
You know what, Kev? I just got to wonder, like, okay, if you're sitting there in Buffalo, let's start at the very top. You're the Pegulas family that owns the team. And what are they thinking? Like, the team is so bad. You're trying to trade Eichel and Reinhart, two of your best young players. You've got all this stuff going on. And, I mean, they've got to know the league is looking at them saying, like, man, you guys are screwing this up, right? I mean, don't you think that?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is one of the reasons I think it's a little bit easier on them is the Buffalo people are very happy about the Buffalo Bills, which they also own.
Yeah.
And people hate it when I say this, but it's the truth. The NHL is such a small, tiny thing compared to the NFL.
Yeah,
and
but Mr. Pegula is a huge Buffalo Sabre fan, though.
It's got to hurt him. I'm just saying it would be more painful for him if he just owned the Sabres. Right. But I think he's got he walks around the Buffalo Bills office. I'm sure.
Yeah. So when he walks downtown Buffalo, or he goes to Sinatra's for chicken wings. People are saying to him, are they looking at him like saying, okay, we're patting him on the back?
I don't even know the answer to that. Maybe there's the Buffalo fans that will tell us, but that's a great point. I would think they'd still be mad at him because they love their Sabres, but it's a mixed bag for him because I'm sure he feels good about what's going on with the Bills. He hired the right person, obviously.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? He stays out of the way when it comes to the Bills, but his wife is the president of the Buffalo Sabres, so obviously not staying out of that. So.
Yeah, but it's funny, but I agree with you completely that they should have brought Rutherford in, but I think managing there they can get by with experience, but I don't know that we know whether, because we haven't seen too many situations that are this bad that a veteran coach could do any better than Donnie Granato. In this case.
Yeah, so. I guess. I mean, it's again, you're talking about building a culture, right? Look at those successful teams, the teams that are, go far in the playoffs, and they've all got that culture, and it's, that about winning and, the sacrifice you have to make, and people like Zdeno Chara and Matt Martin, those kind of guys that, provide that character to the team. So I just.
Yeah, I do think though that most of that culture is learned once you start getting into the playoff.
Very true. Yep. Well, Washington learned how to win. Tampa's learned how to win.
You got to lose to know how to win. And we had this discussion. Was it you or somebody else? I was having a discussion about starter coaches.
You and I had the discussion. Yeah, you might have a good point. Yeah.
So.
Do you think they think that way? If you're GM, I'm trying to think. Would I think that way?
I don't have any idea, but I've heard that reference before. Well, he'll just be a starter coach. Yeah. But I think Donnie Granato is going to surprise some people. I think he's one of those pros coaches. But he's also got.
But Kev, though, in fairness to him, he may be a great coach, but he's not going to have much of a lineup. I mean, it's going to. That's.
Yeah, well, nobody would. I don't care who you put in there.
Well, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe some of these coaches didn't want to go there. Maybe Rick Tocchet said, "Listen, I'm viewed as a certain coach right now. If I go there and coach, then I may lose that luster on me right now, right?" So,
well, I mean, I think that's a fair comment because you could be right, but I would guess that both Tocchet and Boudreau for sure wanted that job.
Yeah,
just because.
Boudreau,
there's only 32 teams.
Yeah.
If you want a job, and they don't pay. They're paying coaches now.
Yeah.
Like I bet Granato is certainly not getting paid like Rod Brindamore, but I bet he's getting over $1 million.
Yep. Totally. Yes. Yep. I agree. Yep. I agree totally.
Maybe closer to 2. I don't know for sure, but
all right. Here's the big question of the day from our girl Susan Brooks: can Tampa Bay be stopped?
Well, not by the Montreal team that we saw in Game 1. I thought, we use this and it's a cliche, but I thought this was really true. Like I think Tampa Bay took them to school in Game 1. I think they said to them, you were playing as well as we were, but you're not the same team we are.
I view that 5-1 loss the same way I viewed the Islanders losing 8-0 to Tampa. They did not play well, but they also had a lot of bad bounces go against them too. But again, it's still
it was a 2-1 game going in the third.
Yeah,
that's the positive that you take out of it.
Totally. Yeah.
If you're Montreal, that
you look at yourself, say, guys, we play terrible. That's not the way we play. We play way better than that. Yeah.
Well, I thought that and it's been a problem before as well, but the defensive zone draws, like they lost that defensive zone draw, and Kucherov, I don't know what the defense was thinking, but they just let him walking across the top of the key and just drive it home. Like,
I know. I think it's one of those things, they were I could see when you feel like this, you look at that Tampa lineup, you're going, oh God, I don't want to make myself look bad. So you kind of pull back and don't do anything, especially you got Carey Price in net. You think he's fantastic. He's going to stop everything. So you just rely on him, and he just can't. And again, some of those were deflections, but you can't just, no matter how good he is, you can't play that way. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. There's a phrase that we use that I think fans have a difficult time, unless they played the game, understanding when he said, we say things like, well, and they didn't do a good job of sorting out the coverage. Yeah. And on that play was a great illustration of that. It seemed to me that when after Braden Point won the draw on a clean over to Kucherov, everybody was standing there, and just what you said, nobody knew who to cover. Yeah. Like he was cutting across, and nobody went with him. And then there was, I think it was Edmondson was down below the circle. I don't know what he was doing there. So, you're just trying to sort it out. But I thought the other thing as well, too, is Montreal had made hay by banging the forwards in front of the net, like really destroying them.
Yeah.
And the Lightning said, you guys can stand there all you want because we don't go in there and stand. We dart in, dart out, dart in. And that's what happened. They didn't hit anybody, not for the net, because of the Lightning were never there, or they weren't there very long. So
I think they're going to regroup. Montreal is. I think they're going to win tonight. I'm going to go with like a 3-1 score, empty net goal. It's going to be 2-1, then an empty net goal, something like that. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I think Tampa will win. I never count the first game. I always say the series starts at game 2. Game 1, we're just feeling it out, getting it sorted out. And then we don't play a real important game till 4.
So that's right. So your whammy against Montreal, like picking against them all the time and then winning, is kind of worn off. Is that what's happening now, or what?
Well, no, because I picked against them again. I took Tampa, so I picked against them every round, and they've won.
Right. So I think that's worn off now. I think
I think Tampa might be just too good.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing, this does seem like a classic old school series offense, Tampa's offense against Montreal's, rugged defense. But Montreal's goals against average is actually better than Montreal's.
Tampa shot. Yeah, you said that.
So I don't know what, I just think Tampa just may be a better team all around. And they're, I made a point to say that Montreal was playing well as Tampa Bay, but maybe it's more important to say Tampa Bay is playing as well and as hard as Montreal did, and they're a better team. So they got more weapons. They're more dangerous. Definitely. And in my opinion, this is their last hurrah, because a lot of those guys, the Blake Colemans, the Goodrow, even their backup goalie, they're going to lose somebody off their main group. They're all going to be gone. So.
I've watched that Johnson more. I'm paying attention to him more, and because our boy Double E, they call him Eric, whatever it is, the writer there that gets on our show, the Tampa writer.
Eric,
he was really low on. I didn't think Johnson was playing that bad. I thought he was pretty good, actually.
I thought he stepped up. He was noticeable in that game. You wonder too, if he realizes, look, I might as well try to get to Seattle because I'm playing fourth line minutes here now. And if I get to Seattle, maybe I can get on the top line again.
Yeah. Look at the players' careers.
Yeah,
I agree.
So
the players' careers in Vegas now that have taken off. Carlson, for example, in there. He came off like a 6-goal season before the expansion draft.
Right.
Again, yeah.
And a lot of it just comes down to kind of minutes played. So
Hey, just real quick, I got to mention everybody. Ron Greshner is in the hospital, had a little heart procedure. So actually, I may run up and see him today. So if anybody's wondering where he is, you know, wish him well. He's fine. Everything's good. I talked to him this morning. He's all good. So,
well, sorry to hear that, but glad he's doing well.
Yes, he's good. Yes, I told him. I said, hey, you got to be better for the show on Thursday. After that, I don't care what happens to you, but no, he's fine. He's good.
Yes.
Oh, hey, really quick too. I know I touched on it on Monday. Did your fantastic wife get a chance to see my cooking? You
know, I don't know why I didn't bring that up to her, because I know it's important, and I did bring it up to her. And I usually can say truthfully that I haven't seen her because she's off doing something, but she actually has been home. So I could have asked her, and I just forgot. But
you know how important that is to me.
I know that is. Yeah. And like you two would fit well. Like she has these days where she just makes a bunch of meals, you know. And so she sits around and, you know, does 4 or 5 for, you know, so to cover herself, you know, for the week.
Right. Isn't it? I'm like that too. Hey, Lorraine, you're an intelligent woman. I tell you, you've got great taste. Oh, man. It's true. I get like that too. I just start cooking. Like today I made a batch of salsa and hummus.
That's what you guys think alike. She will sit down and she has a special spaghetti sauce that she makes.
Right.
And she'll make that. She'll make her salsa. She'll make her hummus. You know, there's 4 or 5 things that she will make and then have them on hand. So
it's like it's a food processor day for me today, because the food processor, they make the salsa and then I clean it, make the hummus in it after that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that can be a tough day for me because this is why. Because the kitchen and proximity to my television room are such, and when that whirls, I have a hard time hearing, and she doesn't like it if I turn the TV up too loud. So,
so do you guys argue about that, or you just realize, you know what?
No, we don't. We try to be reasonable. She tries to give me a few decibel levels, and I try to, be respectful that she doesn't like the TV at 37 volume. You know, so. So
see, that's why you're a smart husband, and you'll only be married one time, and you've done it well.
Yeah, all that for sure. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, well, we've exhausted our time today, but we appreciate you tuning in and joining us. We'll be back next week. We're running out of season here, but Tom, there's so much going on. I think we're going to be going until probably August because we got the draft coming up. I think there's going to be so much happening. I really do. I really think there's going to be a lot of player movement. The trade market right now, in my opinion, is larger than I've ever seen it in the off season.
Really?
There are so many players that are available. I don't think that you can possibly move them all.
Right.
And, and I think there are going to be a number of players on that expansion list that are there with the hope that Seattle will take them.
Right. And even with the draft, it's going to be interesting too, right? Because I imagine they're going to be all over the board on these players because they really haven't got to watch them play that much. I know talking to James Patrick, he coaches up in Winnipeg in the Western League, and he gets scouts calling him all the time, getting his opinion on players. So,
no, it's really going to be interesting. And we've got some big time players that are going to move. Like if Eichel moves, Seth Jones may move in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
That's right.
Those are big time players.
That's a big loss for Columbus, man. Jeez, Seth Jones. Wow.
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, I actually feel sorry for what's going to happen in Columbus because, I don't think they've deserved it. Why players don't want to stay there. It's a wonderful city. I don't know, what the deal is on that. So I don't think it is the city. It just must have been. I've seen some suggestion that maybe it's Kekalainen plays the hardball with negotiations, or it wasn't Tortorella that I could determine because a lot of players liked Tortorella.
Yeah, and he's gone now anyway. So I mean, why would they? If it was Tortorella,
I agree.
I
think Seth Jones is one of the guys. Anyway, if you want to read me, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and also Hockey Buzz for my national work. And Tom, tell us where to listen.
And if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you go to 365 Sports at radio.co. Again, that's 365 Sports at radio.co. Have a good day, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.